Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
Right now.
Right.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Welcome, my friends, to another daily writing motivation stream. Today, we're going to try to get in some writing sprints. I myself have been having a bit of an off day personally, and you know what? This is one of those days where I've gotten close to the stream time a couple times now. Originally, I was going to stream earlier, but this is one of those days where I'm getting into the writing mindset, and it's been a real struggle today. But as is the case over the past 600 plus consecutive writing streams, if I don't feel like writing, I force myself to write anyways. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to hop into a couple writing sprints. On days like this, where I feel the lack of motivation due to external circumstances, I think that just means maybe I'll try a typing test. I was like, I have this theory. I'm like, all right, muscle memory. Muscle memory helps motivate you into doing a thing. So I was like, we'll see if a typing test helps me. I'm in an interesting part of the story because, as y'all know, anyone who's been with me the past couple of weeks got through not the craziest, but a crazy part of the book, past the midpoint, and now I'm at this kind of, I wouldn't say a lull, but now the heroes have gone through all this crazy stuff, and now we're in a rest and recover type chapter, and the main characters have been heavily affected by the events from the midpoint. So definitely different tonally. And this part of the book is so much darker as well. So that's what I have ahead of me. I'm going to see if I can gather my inner Scarecrow, and we'll see what we can do today. So as you can see, I'll throw up the first writing sprint. I have it all queued up on my end. Hey, what's up, Calvin? Good to see you, my friend. Hope the writing vibe is treating you well. I know you've been making some awesome progress on your story. Hopefully, that'll make two of us. So I'm very, very excited. Once again, for anyone who's just joining, whether you're watching live or on the replay, we'll queue off with the first writing sprint, and then I'll come meet you in the chat, and we'll catch up over the break. So let's get into it. Let's push ourselves. As you can see, I got 30 minutes on the clock. Whether you're writing, editing, revising, brainstorming, or something in between, come join us because it's time to write now.
All right, and that was the first writing sprint. How did that treat you? Were you able to make any progress that time? Hopefully you were. I feel like I started to make a little bit of progress. Like I said, it's kind of an interesting day when when you've been dealing with a lot of just like random things and then just like not feeling like writing. So I do what I do whenever I'm like not in that writing mood. What I will do is I'll try like a typing test. Yeah, I'm gonna see if the typing test actually makes a difference. I feel like I have this theory, right, that if I do muscle memory, if I do something that's like muscle memory, then I get myself into the vibe. And it actually worked. I started reading through it, and I'm like, wow, Scarecrow's mood is so different. It's such a different part of the book, and I'm wrapping my head around the events of the chapter. So it's definitely like it's a chill chapter, chill and recover. So we'll see. How did that writing sprint treat you? Were you able to make any progress that time? Hopefully you got a couple words or some ideas in, and we're all pushing each other here. I think it's one of those days. Let's see, Susan, you completed writing your first short script today at room 819 about a recovering addict starting to getting horror flashbacks after years of taking LSD. Wow, that sounds like that's a really intense type of script. Like, boy, I should have wrote horror scripts when I was young. I would have made money, helped my family, marry a famous person. Who knows? I was going through crap at the time. Yeah, but sometimes we're dealing with life, and we don't know, or we're not. Sometimes we're not like ready for parts of life until we go through certain things. So it sounds like you're
been writing consistently, now's the time. Maybe you'll come out with something that will be even better as a result of your experiences. Nice, Calvin. You like almost 1,000 words into your current chapter. Nice. Like, how many words am I in my chapter? That's a good question. Let's see. How many words? Yeah, I'm not super far. I kind of went to the end of the last chapter when I started. Okay, well, about 600 words. Yeah, farther in the chapter than I thought. Nice, Emily. You said you have a few words in, so hopefully we're challenging ourselves to make progress today. I don't know how many sprints I will be up for, but I'm gonna push as long as possible. So we'll hop into another sprint, and we will see what we see. We'll do what we do, my friends. So let's push. Let's see what magic we can make happen, and we're gonna be consistent. We're gonna be consistent AF today. So yeah. I feel pretty good though. I mean, I think this next one, I'm probably gonna keep the next sprint at another 30 minutes. Yeah, I think that feels right. I do three 30-minute sprints. I think that feels right for me today. So yeah, so we'll push into this next one. I'm curious, what is the tone of the stories that you guys are working on? Like tonally, are you guys in like a crazy action scene? Or are you in like a scary scene? Susan, sounds like you're working on horror right now. Mine is definitely like reminiscent. Mine is like sadness and reminiscent of midpoint events. Oh man, I'm like gonna have to channel the characters. I'm gonna have to channel the characters' energy for this next part of the book. Ah, it's such a shifting of energy. Yeah. You know, when you've been working on a part of your book for so long, I was like, I feel like that's like my head has been wrapped up in that tone and that adventure part of it. The second part of the book is just so much fun. God, it's so much fun. Now the third part I have to make much more feel like it's impactful as they're really absorbing, and we're going on the next part of the adventure. Nice, Calvin. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually. Gearing up for a major battle. Battles, I had a lot of fun writing my own like fight scene, and you're usually really good with writing your battles, so that's actually sounds like a lot of. I feel like I went through like a whole learning journey just trying to write my the fight scene that I did. I mean, I guess I did two fight scenes. I did two full-on fight scenes for a Scarecrow. And they both, I think I'm pretty happy with how both them turned out. I think the first one came out a little stronger. I Yeah, I think the first one came out a little stronger, but we'll see how the second one turned out once I go back and reread it. Hey, what's up, Court? Welcome, my friend. Hopefully all is treating you well today, getting in some late writing sprints. And let's do it. So we're going to hop into the next writing sprint. But for those of you who don't know, this weekend, I'm doing the brand new editing stream. So for those of you who missed out yesterday, this Saturday, I will be doing Story Edit Now. It's going to be a new specialty live stream where I'm going to be offering free editing. That's right, free editing of your story excerpts. I'm testing out the format. We'll see if people go for it. I feel like there'll probably be a high submission rate by the time we hit the weekend, but we'll see. So essentially it's free editing. All you got to do is fill out the submission form. It's linked down in the YouTube description down below. And yeah, that tells you the guidelines and what to expect. And we'll see what we see this Saturday. But should be pretty fun. So definitely submit now. The sooner you do, the more likely you have of getting your work edited this Saturday. So it's going to be a new format and definitely going to have a lot of fun with it. Free editing for the community. So I've been wanting to do something. I've been wanting to try out this format for a little while. So we'll see. All right, my friends. So let's get back into the next writing sprint. And we are a go. So I feel good. Nice, Calvin. Super exciting. Like taking advantage of it. Good for you, my friend. Definitely taking advantage of it. What I absolutely love is I think, Calvin, you're one of the early ones who submitted in the very first or second episodes of the story and critique stream. So I like that you're like the trendsetter over here, and you like get it started. Which I think is awesome. So we'll see how the editing stream goes this weekend. But let's do it. So let's hop into the next writing sprint. I am all ready. So whether you are brainstorming, writing, editing, revising, or something else in between, come join us for the second sprint because it's time to write now. And that is the next writing sprint. How did that sprint treat you? Hopefully you're able to make some progress that time. Drop a comment. I would love to hear. Hopefully you're getting a little motivation during this later writing sprint on a Tuesday. So how was I feeling? I think I got a little bit of work in. I was kind of just reviewing the rest of the chapter and seeing kind of what felt right and what I was vibing on. So I was kind of like reviewing. Yeah, I mean it's interesting because I'm so used to like the past couple chapters I've had to like rewrite completely, but a lot of the story beats are working are actually pretty good in this. I'm just having to fix and adjust the conversation. This feels more like a revision chapter, which is nice. And I'm starting to feel like there's probably going to be more of that as I get farther into the book now, which is a nice, which will make this part of the book go a little quicker. So I was like, I feel like I ended up adding some new material. Yeah, I mean, especially throughout the last story arc where I had to add all the different animals. that was a doozy. Man. Nice, Janine. You're like doing better actually, since you did some realization that you don't have to have the mass appeal as a lot of others and blow up right at the start. It's actually a really good realization to have, Janine. That's actually really, really cool. I think every writer has at times can have different goals based on the type of books that they write, based on the genre and their intended readership. I think that's a good thing to realize, especially because I know you're writing multi-genre. Multi-genre can be a little harder to break into. Thanks for that, Janine. I gotta. It's I like suck at getting rid of the bots. Let's ban that. Nice. Banned it. Thanks for that, Janine. I appreciate it. It's actually kind of annoying because it lets me ban spam and bots from Twitch chat, but it doesn't let me change the chat, the on-screen chat. What are you gonna do? All right, so I'm feeling pretty good though. Let's see, Emily, you did some good process for chapter 30 of your fanfic. Ooh, what fanfic are you working on, Emily? What's the universe? Calvin, you're like almost at 1,500 words. Nice. I'm feeling motivated by you, Calvin. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Let's see. I'm on chapter 29. So it sounds like we're at that part of the story. Scarecrow has 55 chapters plus an epilogue. Well, technically epilogues, but 55 chapters and a couple select epilogues. Oh man, yeah. Definitely feeling that sleepy-ish vibe. Okay. All right. And let's see. Courtney, nice. Check overall progress. Just shy of 30,000 in your Razor novel. Nice. Nice. Wow, you're making some substantial progress with Razor. That's awesome. Emily, like Power Rangers Samurai. This sounds cool, actually. I was like, I know nothing about that. I'm not actually quite sure what that is. Well, that's cool. Samurais are cool. Ninjas are fun. I guess samurais would not be ninjas. Let's see. That's interesting. Is that from like Power Rangers universe? That'd be interesting. Probably an interesting cross up, actually. Let's see. All right. Let's do it. So let's hop back into another writing sprint and see what we see. All right. Nice. Awesome. Awesome. So let's hop into writing sprint number 3. We're going to push and we're going to see what progress we can make. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Well, it sounds like you definitely got some cool stuff going on, especially if you're on chapter 29. So definitely good luck with that, Emily. I know we have a lot of fan fiction writers in the community, so that's actually super cool. I know like nothing about that universe. Awesome. Let's see what we got. So I'm going to push straight into writing sprint number 3, and let's see what we see. So whether you're writing, editing, revising, or brainstorming, come join us because it's time to write now. All right, my friends, how did that last writing sprint treat you? Hopefully you're able to make a little bit more progress. I was kind of going back and forth. I actually felt the most successful in my second writing sprint of the three of them. I felt really successful in the second one. The first one was kind of a build up, and the third one, I was just struggling with focusing. But you know what? You make it one one sprint at a time. So hopefully you were able to make a little bit more progress than I was. Hey, what's up, Cap? Here, costs popcorn. You're like, always important to have a snack break. So important. Interesting. I was like, I was going back and reviewing the original chapter that I had at this moment, and I was just like, okay, how's the flow feeling? There's some things that are a little exaggerated, things that could definitely be tuned in. Yeah, we're getting there. I'm getting there slowly but surely. Tomorrow will be better. Oh, you're like almost done. Nice, Calvin. You're like, it sounds like you've made some awesome progress today. I'm jealous. That's awesome. Tomorrow, I will persevere. So, Emily, you're in the middle of the chapter, so you're halfway done. Yeah, both of you guys did some good work today. Really happy. I'm glad that the 3 sprints were able to help out a little bit today, my friends. I made a little bit, but today not one of my most exciting writing sprints. But as in every day, I'm proud that I persevered and I pushed through regardless. And yeah, I was like, I know I need to do with this chapter. I just need to keep doing it. But hopefully you're able to make some progress, my friends. That's what I got for you today. Thanks all for joining. Nice, Gabby. Like, you've been writing world building for days. I've been reading some history and linguistic books to help. Yeah, I mean, that can definitely help, especially with language. That can definitely make a huge dent. And I feel like there's so much research that can go into world building an entire language for like a race or species or culture. There's definitely a lot. I know some writers will definitely invest a lot of time into coming up with the language. I think I touched on like a couple words. There's the 3 dragonkin I have in my story do speak a different language, and I think I touch on like a couple words that I just like thought through that sounded like gutturally yet airily, like what it would sound like. But I don't think I'm going to worry about creating a language right now, at least for this book, because it's just not relevant. And it'd be a side quest. So you do what you do, right? Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining today. I'll be back tomorrow with the Right Now Writers Group. Come join us Wednesdays, every Wednesday, 4 Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, as I'm joined by other writers in the community, and we do what we all do together. We write, we don't procrastinate at all, and we talk about whatever writing shenanigans are on our mind. So if you want to join us, let me know. Come hop on stream with us. If you want to just talk with some other writers, it's a virtual writers group. Or whether you come join us in the chat, our writers group is always cool. We always have different writers showing up. So that's what I got for you, my friends. Thank you so much for joining. We we made it. I made it through another sprint, and we'll see what we see tomorrow. But unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. Words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. It's time to write.
Right now.
Sorry.
Right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now.